Hey everybody, this is Brian Mittman here, Coffee with the Disability Guys. As we always like to do, we bring on different guests periodically to talk about some interesting topics. I'm very excited today to have a colleague and friend, Jonathan Sedgh from the law firm of Morgan & Morgan on with us. We're going to be talking about the 3M earplugs and the litigation surrounding that, and we're going to take a deep dive as to what it's all about, where it is in the litigation process, and what it could mean for you. I'm excited to have Jonathan here. He has years of experience in what is known as mass tort, which is basically lawsuits that affect lots of people all over the country and the world due to things such as defective products, bad medications, and all those good stuff. Morgan & Morgan is one of the largest, if not the largest, personal injury firm in the country, and they are real powerhouses and have had some recent direct trials with 3M that we will talk about briefly. So I'm excited to have Jonathan on board today. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here. How's you doing, everybody?
And if there's anything else you guys want to tell us about yourself, or I know you've been in the litigation world for over a decade and you're a native New Yorker.
Yeah, born and bred. I'm a New Yorker, true and through.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. So why don't we jump right into it? So we mentioned this 3M earplugs and lawsuits, and I think a lot of people may have an idea of what we're talking about. They're these kind of like yellow, funky looking earplugs that were sold to and created for the military to try to save people's hearing. So why don't you give us a kind of that high level overview?
Yeah, this was the second version of the earplug that they actually came out with. It was Aero Technology and the 3M company together. And in 2003 to 2015, they were primarily used in the military, and primarily all service members used these earplugs. And they were a dual-sided earplug, which was the new innovation. So one side of the earplug, the green side, would disallow any noise from entering your ear canal. And the yellow side would allow you to hear commands, but at the same time still protect you from loud explosions. Well, at least that was the intention of it.
Okay. And I'm assuming from the fact that we're having a discussion right now that wasn't exactly the case.
Yeah, something went off kilter at some point, and unfortunately that led to hundreds of thousands of people who have either lost hearing or been diagnosed with tinnitus, which is a constant ringing in their ears that can't be cured.
So these are not your basic earplugs that I'm going to use in the swimming pool this summer. These are highly designed, or these are designed specifically for very, very loud situations. Yeah, specifically for the military and roadside bombs, things of that nature, to be able to protect you. I mean, right now, I think there are over 2 million people, veterans, that are suffering or receive disability from the government for hearing loss. Wow, that's actually staggering. I knew it was a big number, but 2 million. So, things happen, right? We're lawyers, we know things happen, and that's sometimes why you bring lawsuits to try to right wrongs and stuff like that. But this is the military. Isn't it something that people should have expected? Or why is there litigation? What is this actually really about? What are you suing for?
You would think that a company, whenever they're disseminating something like this to the public, that they would have done the proper testing and made sure that the device actually works and isn't defective. But the complete opposite happened here. There was no testing that was done to be able to prove that the earplugs actually worked. And it's clear in documents that we've seen to this point, emails between the company members and employees, that the earplugs just didn't do what they were supposed to do. And they fudged numbers to the government in order to get approval to have the earplugs disseminated to their service members.
So I understand there's a lot of people involved. So why can't I just, if I was in the military and I used these earplugs in the early 2000s or late 2000s and I'm having hearing loss, why can't I just bring a lawsuit against the guy who made it, the company that made it?
You definitely can. But sometimes it's a little difficult on your own to be able to go up against a multi-billion-dollar company. So there are, attorneys just like my firm, Morgan & Morgan, out there that are part of this group that are suing 3M. And there are about 240,000 people that have contacted us and told us that they were in the military between 2003 and 2015. They were issued these earplugs, and now they have hearing loss or tinnitus. But the advantage of coming with Morgan & Morgan is that our firm is part of the leadership committee that was appointed by the federal judge to be part of a group of about 20 lawyers and firms to kind of steer the litigation in the right way.
So let me just kind of dive into that just for a moment without getting too complicated to explain to viewers. So this is, and I hear this from people a lot. They say, "Oh, it's a class action." So we know this is not, from the legal side, a class action. But basically, what this mass litigation, multi-district litigation is all about is that there are so many people that if every single person hired their own attorney and brought a lawsuit, it would be chaos. So instead of doing that, what happens when we realize that there are a lot of lawsuits against one company, we can form a group, and they call it multi-district litigation. We don't have to worry too much about that. And then there are certain law firms, like you said, that get appointed to lead the litigation. So if there's 240,000, and we know 2 million people that were exposed, maybe there will be 5, 10, 25 trials that are being picked as the ones to be the, quote, bellwether, right? The leading cases. And then depending on how that goes, if you win the cases, lose the cases, then the two sides can come together and try to settle the cases for everybody. Does that sum it up?
Yeah, that's pretty much our goal, and that's a good overview of how this is going to take place. And we're actually 2 years into this multi-district litigation at this point, and we've just had in the past 6 months, we had 2 trials. The first trial, we won. There were 3 plaintiffs, and they were service members that used these earplugs, and they had hearing loss and tinnitus. And they were in front of a jury for about 5 weeks, and they told their story. We had experts from across the country explaining the defective nature of the earplugs, and the defendants had their opportunity to present their case, and a jury of their peers decided that they should be awarded over $7 million to compensate them for their pain and suffering, and punitive damages against the company to send a message that you can't treat individuals like this.
Well, that is a fantastic recovery. So that's number one. But we were also talking, you had a second trial.
Correct. We did have a second trial of a individual who unfortunately did not succeed at his trial. That was a 2-week trial. But there were case-specific facts in that person's case where he may have had some sort of confounding factors or a roadside bomb that may have happened before the earplugs were issued. So there was kind of a debate as to whether or not it was the earplugs that were at fault for his hearing loss.
And how many of these type of trials will there be, in your experience, before the two sides can really sit down and kind of hash out maybe a settlement? Because obviously, if you win one and you lose one, both sides now know that there's a good chance that you probably are going to want to settle. Some litigations, you lose all the cases and you're not going to ever settle. Other litigations, you win them all, and all of a sudden the company comes forward and says, let's talk. So what do you see going on at this time in terms of that? Do you have more trials scheduled? What's happening?
Yeah, we're actually in the middle of a trial right now. They just picked a jury on Monday. We anticipate that this trial will last about 2 weeks as well. It could go either way. I mean, everybody can win or lose at a trial, but we feel very confident that with the facts that we have, that we'll be able to succeed at trial. And we have another wave of trials coming up in September and October. And it seems like the Judge Rogers, is going to be scheduling some trials over the next year and a half at least, until the parties are able to come together for a resolution.
And so basically, the folks that win their trials, other than appeals, could ultimately go on and their trial, with the idea for those other hundreds of thousands of people, they might be able to ultimately recover without having a trial, but some type of settlement arrangement.
Correct. At the end of the game, in these types of cases, there's usually some sort of matrix or a grid where individuals fall into certain categories depending on the severity of their hearing loss, whether it's in both ears, one ear, if they're using a hearing aid, if they need surgery to cure something. And ultimately, people will get different amounts of compensation if we're successful, depending on their facts.
Now, since we are dealing with veterans, I do know that there are some other benefits that people may be entitled to, such as what's called a service-connected disability. So if you suffer some type of disability while in the service, the Veterans Administration could pay you a disability type of payment. Does that impact or affect the lawsuits at all?
Not at all. In no way will the lawsuit affect the compensation that you're receiving from the government for your disability. So those 2 million people that are suffering from hearing loss, if they were to come forward and file a lawsuit, they will still continue to receive their benefits even after a settlement would be reached.
And I would encourage anybody that's listening is if you haven't applied for your service-connected disability to certainly do that. You can do that after the fact as long as you have certain proof, and obviously being in this litigation could help you with that as well, but they're two separate types of benefits, a lawsuit and a disability benefit from your service.
Exactly.
And then for those that are actually on as well, there are other potential benefits that you can receive. If you have been working for a while and become disabled, and if your hearing loss and issues and tinnitus is related to the lawsuits and or your service, you might be able to apply for Social Security disability. And the same holds true, that does not affect your ability to bring a lawsuit and pursue a lawsuit.
Correct. So, and if somebody does file a lawsuit and we're able to prove that it has been affecting their employment, we would obviously try and compensate them a little bit more than somebody else that wouldn't be in that situation.
Right. So big question lots of people have and a lot of attorneys try to shy away from. How do attorney fees work? Because, we're not talking about folks that have tens of thousands of dollars to pay an attorney.
In mass tort cases, typically it's what's called a contingency fee, where the attorneys put up all the money for the expenses in advance, and they're only compensated if they're successful as far as a settlement or a verdict. And if we don't get you money, we don't get repaid for the out-of-pocket money that we spent. But typically it's about a 40% retainer that you sign up front. And at the end of the day, if we are successful, we get our share of expenses and our fees back.
So you're hiring all of the experts who are looking at all the science, and you're bringing those folks into the courthouse to argue all these.
Correct. We're spending tens of millions of dollars on a litigation. So we're going out there and we're confident that we're going to be successful, but there's always a chance that we won't be, and we wouldn't be able to recoup our expenses in that case.
So if I were to call your office today and speak to you about my possible case, what would maybe the top 3 things be that you would tell me that I need to do right now? Assume I haven't filed any claim or anything.
Very simple intake process. We would want to know whether or not you served between 2003 and 2015. Number 2, we would want to know whether or not you recall being issued the CAE V2, the specific earplug that we were using with the green and the yellow dual-ended. And number 3, whether or not you've been diagnosed or have been treated for some sort of hearing loss or tinnitus. And once you get past that, we'll be able to start ordering your records from the government and be able to find out where you were deployed, where basic training occurred. We'll be able to get all your medical records from the VA to be able to prove that you have some sort of disability related to your hearing loss.
Great, that's fantastic. And is there a time limit at this point for somebody who may just now realize, oh my gosh, the hearing loss I have is maybe connected to the fact that I served and had these?
We get dozens of calls every single day with people that have just learned about this, whether it's from a show like this or a commercial or the news regarding the verdicts that we had this year. It's never too late to call. And if we can't help you, we'll let you know, but we'll do our best.
Fantastic. I think that about covers the questions I had and you and I had spoken about. So just to kind of recap, with these particular hearing protection devices, the earplugs, you are bringing lawsuits against the manufacturer for making faulty earplugs or lying about, the quality of those earplugs and causing permanent injury to people. That sums it up.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Well, it's attorneys like you and folks that we need protecting people, because unfortunately, as you said, I assume the companies that made these made billions of dollars, and in fact, if they sold them to the government, they were making that billions off of everybody watching this right now. And to do things knowingly that injure people is what you and I spend our careers fighting against. So thank you very much.
And I'm glad you're getting the message out, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. And what we're going to do for everybody is I'm going to have all of Jonathan's contact information available here. You can obviously always reach out to the Disability Guys as well, and we can try to help you out as best as possible and get you the benefits and the compensation you deserve.